Hey everybody, it's Lucky Strike. I'm here literally in my backyard, in my home base in Carlsbad, California. It's Friday morning and I'm getting ready to head back out to the PCT first thing in the morning tomorrow for my second weekend of my little mini northbound prep hike. So having been out on trail already this season, I wanted to share some of the things some of those of you coming out to start your hikes will encounter when you get to Campo, especially if you're not from Southern California. So right now we're entering our spring weather season. We've had a reasonably dry, rainy season this year, so one of the big issues I had my first week out on trail was there was not an abundance of water. So when you get to Campo, make sure you have the capability to carry at least 4 liters of water. You may need even more. The first 30 miles or so of the trail is fairly exposed. There's not a lot of trees or canopy. You will encounter some oak groves around some of the water stream sources. But be prepared for a lot of sunshine in the day. It can get quite warm. Even if it's only in the 50s or 60s, it's so arid. And the lack of tree cover, you know, just make sure you have sun protection and light, loose clothing that allows your body to breathe and cool itself. A lot of people mistake California as being a very mild climate, and it actually can get very cold in the desert at night. So my first weekend, I saw temperatures go below freezing into the mid-20s. This weekend, rain is forecast, and the lows are going to be in the mid-30s. And as I, gain in elevation, I'm planning to camp about 3,300 feet tomorrow night. If I were to try and camp closer to the Laguna mountain range at 6,000 feet, it will definitely get below freezing there, and I could encounter freezing rain. So make sure you're bringing good insulation. And you really want things that can get wet and still keep you warm. So I tend to hike in clothing made of either wool as a base layer, that's my favorite, and then I use synthetic fibers for insulation. I have a synthetic puffy I'm using now. And then as far as my sleep system, I have a really good air mattress with a very high R value, a lot of insulation. A lot of your coldness at night comes from the ground sapping the heat from you. So make sure you bring a good insulation pad for the California section. And then for my sleeping bag, I'm using a quilt, a down quilt that I have a waterproof bag to make sure it stays dry. On a less positive note, my first week out, I did pick up a case of poison oak. I did a little video on that I'll share with you. Last year was a very rainy season, and so there is a lot of vegetation that thrived last year, and one of the things that has grown a lot more in the 10 years I've been hiking out there is the poison oak. There's a lot more than normal. It's not a big deal, if you know what to look for, and if you think you've been exposed, I'll give you some tips on how to deal with that.
So for poison oak, what you're looking for are these leaves of 3. They come in groups of 3s. And at various times of the year, they may be solid green. They may be autumn color like we see right now here in the winter. And it's also important to note that there may be poison oak branches with no leaves on them. And the branches and the leaves both contain the oil that causes the allergic reaction. And the oil on this is completely clear and it's very sticky. And the remedy, if you come into contact, you actually have about 8 hours or so to rinse the oil off you. It takes a while for the body to develop a reaction to it. So if you can use cold water, soap, and friction and just wash yourself and all the things that may have come in contact with it, your clothes, your backpack, and so on, you may be able to mitigate the effects of it.
It just goes away on its own, by the way. If you do nothing, you know, it'll go away in between 1 to 3 weeks, but it can be very uncomfortable. I also took a lot of video footage of some of the flora you'll encounter in the area. Some white sage. So this has, it's an herb and it has a lot of properties to it that are helpful. The native indigenous people would bathe with that. It's a great antimicrobial, antibacterial, all those little things. And you can drink it as a tea. It has spiritual properties, supposed to give you clarity, spiritual clarity. It has a sort of a pungent fragrance to it. But it's very healthy. I've seen a lot of the sage on the trail so far. Here's another herb you'll see a lot of on trail, California lemon thyme. It's very sweet smelling, kind of like lemonade. You can also make this into a tea. Here's another species of edible plant out here, prickly pear cactus. Takes a little work, but you can saute it up. It's very common in Mexican cuisine. Here's a Yucca Bush. It's another plant that has some edible elements to it. The flowers, those little pods you see up there when they're in bloom and they're white, they're edible. And then the base can be used to make twine, rope. You'll see a lot of those out here in California. Here we are northbound, approaching Hauser Pass, baby. We're going down just to go back up. You gotta love that. So anyway, I'm excited to get back out on the trail to take you along with me. And those of you that are starting your hikes, good luck to you, and I hope to see all of you on the trail.